Women do not look to the community because today you cannot correct someone else's kid. You can't correct people's kids no more. Lewis, offering help to the sister, her son goes to your son's school, Lewis. Niggas ain't doing that, Lewis. Niggas ain't checking for their neighbor and saying, "Oh, you know what? I see that you can use some help. Let me." That's just. I mean, I know it sounds good, but, in reality, that's not really happening. And here's the thing. Here's the rub. And if you try to do it, you get denied today because ego is killing all of this shit.
Do you think majority of men are Pookie and Ray Rays, or they're decent human beings? Majority of black men. Do you think we fall majority on the side of most of us ain't shit, or most of us are good and there's just bad apples in the community?
Yeah. Well, I'll answer this and I'll let it go. I think that most guys are not necessarily Pookies and Ray Rays. I think that most guys don't have a plan or a vision.
Okay. So trying to find a way to say this without sounding horrible by saying.
Well, you can't because I just dropped the mic. Go
ahead. Also, you hold that real tight, Sweeney. Let me get some other people in there. Now we'll come back. All right, go ahead. With a purple pill. What's your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we're shifting accountability a lot. The women need to be held accountable just as much as the men. The big thing, though, is that the best way to make the community better is for you to be selfish, ironically. Like sometimes being a little selfish is actually good. Focusing on yourself and becoming a better man, getting a family, having kids. That's how you help your community, because when you have a family and kids, you don't have to go and take care of some other woman's kids. Like you just have kids. Your kids play with their kids at school. You notice that that's a single mother who has a kid. You always invite her kids to your family's events and you go and do stuff with them. But you do that through your own, you do that through your own success. Like you're not really going out of your way to do anything. Like it's just a natural thing that happens when you're successful on your own. It's just going to naturally happen if you just focus on building better leaders of men, just being family men and stuff like that. But I really think that we're shifting a lot of blame. You were saying earlier that or like what he says, is that black men are to blame. It's not black men at all. It's definitely just men in general are kind of in blame, because it's just the powers that be. Men are the ones that made all these laws. Men are the ones that put feminists into the position that they're at right now. It's not black men, period. And it's really stupid whenever it's pointed directly at just black men, because it's a scapegoat. Like it's not just black men. It's one of those things that it's just to tear down black men. It's stupid, honestly.
All right, let me get Luis in there.
I agree with that statement, Purple Pill. It's not black men, it's weak men with no backbone. I wrote a lot of stuff down. So one of the things I really want to start off is, he made a comment by saying, he said it was systemic. And a part of me, was thinking to myself, don't we have free will? You know what I'm saying? To participate. You know what I'm saying? People make decisions every single day. People negotiate every single day. Every day is a negotiation about everything, how you choose to live, how you wake up, and the things that follow. I believe it's a little bit more complex when he made the comment about, we've allowed, black women to become more masculine. The world outside inherently is hard. It's harsh, very competitive, and it forces people to bring out that masculine essence out of them. It's hard, it's competitive, it pushes you, it challenges you, and it forces you to transform in something outside of your nature sometimes, especially if you're a woman, because there's an instinct to survive and thrive and push forward. One of the things I do want to kind of challenge you on, Purple Pill, was you did say, make a family, what I'm saying, have kids, so like that you're not worried about somebody else's kid. But at the same time, I also look at it from this perspective. If I'm married and I have a wife and I have kids, but I see a sister who's struggling and she's walking down the street with her 2 kids, and I notice that her kids go to the same school that mine's do, and I see her that she's working an extra shift, and I go to her and I tell her, hey sister, I see you struggling over there. How's you let me, I'll help you out with your kids. I know they're in basketball. I could pick them up and drop them off. We live closely by. They could have dinner with us. When you're
Yeah, no, I agreed with all that.
shift, right?
Yeah.
But that
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there,
I agree with all that.
yeah, that right there is a more proactive choice as opposed to kicking somebody while they're down. I'm not really much of that, but I think that there is a certain way to kind of navigate that, especially if you're trying to stitch, community back together and bring that essence. If 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 we were in the community, as he said, Pookie and Ray Ray wouldn't exist. But I mean, the harsh reality is that there's a Pookie and Ray Ray that exists in every community. Unfortunately, there's always going to be some seeds that are going to pass by, and they're just going to be the low hanging fruit at times. But I think with more proactive presence in the community, these types of things don't become sort of a pandemic themselves. You know what I'm saying? You're like you said, your kids are your responsibility, but I would say that we abandoned the family. We didn't abandon black boys. I think we abandoned, the value systems of what community means. You know what I'm saying? Not the black boy. And all of these created conditions in the aftermath. And here's a classic example of why we need to, and here's a classic example of why we sometimes run back to the entertainer and not run to, people that there's already in the community, such as teachers, there's tradespeople, there's business people, there's mentors, right? These people exist. You know what I'm saying? Like athletes, rappers, and entertainers are all good. And I understand, to Sean's point, there is something about them that they went through the struggle and they grind it out to make it up on the other side of it all. So they can relate to somebody like that. But I would also argue that there's somebody there in that community that exists that still has a strong presence there, who hasn't left, who still participates in these interventions that, reduce the scale of violence amongst other young men, who's active in these other programs like the Boys and Girls Club or the Big Brother, Big Sister program. All these things are really out there. And I just think that more ideas need to be brought forward as opposed to problems. Like I always tell one of my project managers, don't tell me about your problems. I want to hear your solutions. Are you?
All right, go ahead, Shannon.
Sweeney, women do not look to the community, because today you cannot correct someone else's kid. You can't correct people's kids no more. Lewis, offering help to the sister, her son goes to your son's school, Lewis. Niggas ain't doing that, Lewis. Niggas ain't checking for their neighbor and saying, oh, you know what? I see that you can use some help. That's just, I know it sounds good, but in reality, that's not really happening. And here's the thing, here's the rub. And if you try to do it, you get denied today, because ego is killing all of this shit. If you were even to do that, you'd be suggesting to her that she's a failure. And you can't correct women today. So to say, hey, I see you struggling and I know your son is having some issues, maybe he can go to school. That's just, I'm at the playground. If y'all watch my story, I'm at the playground with my kids every Sunday. The thing is, I am with Sweeney, Purple Pill, Jay Stanza, Sharon Bracey. I think I'm probably going to be with B. Madden. Humble Dad and Sean and Dr. Umar. Y'all tripping. I rock with Dr. Umar. By and large, I support Dr. Umar. I support his message. I like that brother. I know a lot of people don't like him. A lot of people in the Black Manosphere don't like him. I like Dr. Umar. I've supported him. I've always supported him. I've defended him. I've donated money to FDMG. But this shit here that he talked about on that podcast, the problem that I'm having with that is he's absolving women for their poor choices. And we cannot absolve. We got to stop absolving people for their poor choices. He ignored 3 decades of black men becoming stepfathers. I know, Humble Dad, he wasn't talking about stepfathers, but he was. He said it, but he was. But the message was, even though he was talking about programs, and I'll get to that. Because for 30 years, man, men have been stepping up with no return on investment from the mother or the kids that they helped. I was there. I'm in LA. My father, 42 years with Los Angeles Unified School District. He retired from Audubon Junior High. Anybody from LA know Audubon and Crenshaw High? Y'all know what I'm talking about when it comes to Audubon. My father retired from there. You cannot build a mini Wakanda with an uncooperative and unwilling woman. You can't, you guys. I know you think you can based on all these ideological theories of just jumping in and helping people. They don't even want help. Consent of the governed. Consent of the governed. I've said it 1,000 times. Consent of the government. You want me to take control of the community? Modern laws allow followers to not be led if they don't like the leaders, how the leaders make them feel. It ain't like we can shake somebody up and get them in line when we see their kids doing bad. Who are you talking about? You can't even talk. When I grew up, I got a whooping 3 times before I got home to get the final one. I got whoopings from my principal. We had paddles with holes in them when I was in school. You can't even talk to kids now. Crazy. Kids know they can call authorities and they'll lie on. You forget about your neighbor trying to correct the kid because you'll see the mother. What you say to my son? You want me to lead you guys? There has to be followers first. It becomes a circular argument because you talk about programs, not stepfathers. I get it. But Humble Dad, you know they're not signing up. Humble Dad, the Sigma Beta Club, it's empty. The Kappa League, it's empty. They're not signing up for the Sigma Beta Club. And I'm not a member of Phi Beta Sigma. You are, Humble Dad, and you know they not running to sign up for that club. Thousands of what I call perfect men of Phi Beta Sigma offering their assistance, and they can't even get the women to bring the boys to sign up. The reality is it's the first 5 years that are the most impressionable for any child. Women lose control of their children after the first 5 is already burned in. It's too late. After the kid is 16 years old, that's when they want to find help. But when the kid was a kid, where it mattered, when the impressionable years was there to make sure he went the right way, you couldn't tell her shit. She was dressing him up and putting earrings and little 2-year-olds and putting Gucci on them and treating them like an accessory when it mattered. And now when he's in the streets and it's too late, you might get, oh my God, where did I go wrong? I need some help. You can't tell that nigga nothing now. He's 16 with a blicky out there ripping and running the streets, and he come home when he want to. And she ain't running to the Big Brothers Club. She's not running to the YMCA. You want me to coach these kids? I need players first. Parents have to sign their kids up. The father of these babies are not 80% of the black men. And what we're doing now, and this is the part that I have, we're asking the good guys to be the cleanup men. We're asking the good guys who did it right, who didn't become Pookie, which is by and large most. More black adult men do not have kids. Most black adult men ain't no baby daddy. The other 30% is married. So what we're saying is, now that I'm lost control and I don't have any help, for the women that even have the ego or the humility to ask for help, which is a slim to none in and of itself, can you good guys who I ignored when I was in my sexual prime and didn't give you no play, come help me with this badass baby of mine because his baby daddy ain't around no. Come on, man. That's absolving women for their poor choices. We tried that before. We tried it and it didn't work. And we see how they treated the men that actually did step up. And that's where we are today. So now I'm of the mind, bruh, you laid in that bed. You made that choice. Deal with it. We can't save it. And the thing about Umar, which is I like him, but he's he's arguing against himself. He got videos prior to this. He got videos saying some of these kids you gotta let them die. You gotta euthanize them. You can't even correct them. He got videos of himself saying that. He got videos saying some of these kids can't be fixed. You gotta put them to sleep. He said that. He argued with Cynthia G over at Fox Soul, completely against everything that he's saying on this podcast. He's fighting himself. So I'm almost like, come on, Umar, what you doing here? I have a feeling I know what he really thinks, but I know he needs to get that school going. I know he has some donations to collect, and I know who his largest base is. And you got to pander to your base. I'm sorry, Umar, I got to say it, but that's what you're doing, brother, because them brothers was hitting you with some good information, and you know better. Sean, you know better. Humble Dad, you know better.